Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. Happy Tuesday. I took off yesterday for Labor Day. I know I told you guys on Saturday that I was going to go live, but just some things happen, and Labor Day can be those type of days can be rough when you have a newborn. Let's just put it that way. Or not a newborn, but when you have a toddler who you can't put in daycare. So I decided to take off. I hope you guys all had a great 3-day weekend. We are back here on Tuesday, ready to get rolling with this short week and a lot to get to. We are going to discuss Tennessee flipping a 4-star from the Auburn Tigers. The Vols are on a roll on the recruiting trail and they cannot be stopped. We're going to get to that. Also, Josh Heupel in his presser. Injury reports are the big story because Jackson Moy and Ricky Gibson III both out. Whose injury is a bigger deal? We're going to discuss that. Okay, we already recapped Tennessee over Syracuse, but Nico Iamaleava flopped miserably in his debut for Utah against UCLA. Was there a sick pleasure there? Did you guys enjoy that? I'm just going to ask, did Tennessee fans enjoy Nico Iamaleava's flop more than Utah fans enjoyed winning that game? It's going to be a bit of a question, a bit of a debate, but we're going to have a little fun with that. Also, SEC power rankings and takeaways from the college football season. A lot of those. So a lot to get to. Smash that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. We're building something great here at All the Hook Sports, and we want you to be a part of it. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, white settle. Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question. And it involves the news that Josh Heupel delivered on Monday. Josh Heupel gave his weekly press conference during the season on Monday to update Tennessee football and how things are going after the Vols got off to a 1-0 start with a 45-26 win over Syracuse. And Heupel revealed injury updates on Ricky Gibson III and Jackson Moy. For those who don't know, Ricky Gibson III was knocked out of the game early in Tennessee's win over Syracuse. Jackson Moy was also knocked out of the game. Nathan Robinson came in for Jackson Moy. Nathan Robinson then got knocked out of the game. Now, Jamal McCoy and David Sanders Jr. were already out of the game. They were already hurt and missed the game. David Sanders doesn't seem as serious. Jamal McCoy's was expected. However, Josh Heupel, the two big stories were Jackson Moy and Ricky Gibson III. And Heupel provided updates on those Monday. According to Josh Heupel, Ricky Gibson III is going to be out for, quote, an extended period of time. Now, what that means, we don't know. But could it be a few weeks? Could it be a couple of months? We don't know. He injured his left arm in the season opener. The exact nature of the injury is unknown. Moy, according to Heupel, will miss this week, but he hopes to get Moy back quickly. Now, on the surface, Ricky Gibson's injury by itself is more concerning because he was out for longer. He's going to be out for longer. However, then you have to talk about needs and issues, and that leads to this question, and it is today's tough question. Is Josh Heupel or Ricky Gibson III's injury more concerning long term? The poll question up. You guys can vote on it now. Whose injury is more concerning? Not Josh Heupel, excuse me, Jackson Moy. Is Jackson Moy or Ricky Gibson III's injury more concerning long term? Whose injury is more concerning? You guys can vote on the poll question up right now. Jackson Moy or Ricky Gibson III. Now, it would seem to be Ricky Gibson III because Ricky Gibson III is going to be out longer. That much is clear. They're both going to miss this weekend, but Ricky Gibson III is probably going to miss quite a few more weekends after that. And Tennessee's already depleted in the secondary because of the injury to Jamal McCoy. However, I'm actually going to take a different route on this, believe it or not. I'm going to say that Jackson Moy's injury is more concerning. And let me break down why. We all saw Colton Hood play on Saturday. Colton Hood played elite for Tennessee. I mean, he played incredible. He had 3 pass deflections, recovered a fumble, ran it in for the end zone for a touchdown, and also had 4 tackles, 3 of which were solo. And his PFF grade was 75.4. Also, Ty Redmond showed that. I'm sorry, not his PFF grade was 75.6. Excuse me, 75.4. Also, Ty Redmond stepped up, was very good as a true freshman. 75.6 PFF rating, played 60 snaps. Jalen McMurray stepping in the star position, 73.9, had a sack, deflected a pass that was intercepted, was key. Boo Carter had one of his worst games, still getting back, I think, into the rhythm of things, but had a 67.8. I think when you take that into account, I think it's safe to say that Tennessee's cornerbacks are very deep. They have a lot of talent there. So even with Ricky Gibson III out for an extended period of time, they should be okay. And don't forget, Jermon McCoy, my understanding the whole time was they just wanted to get through the Syracuse game because they expect him to be full go by the Georgia game. Now, how true that is, I don't know, but they do expect him to be ready to go. So if McCoy is back, and I expect him to be back next week against Georgia, and you have the depth with Colton Hood, Ty Redmond, and Jalen McMurray, I think even with Ricky Gibson III out for an extended period of time, I think the cornerbacks are just so much better as a unit that Jackson Moy's injury is more concerning because one behind Jackson Moy, Nathan Robinson got hurt. But most importantly, Tennessee had to replace 3 defensive linemen from last year's team. Interior defensive linemen. If you count James Pierce, it would be 4, but I count edge rushers differently. So 3 interior defensive linemen from last year's team, which would be they had to replace Amari Thomas, Elijah Simmons, and Omar Norman Lott. Stepping into those roles are Bryson Eason, Jackson Moy, and obviously David Hobbs. David Hobbs is already hurt. And then Nathan Robinson got hurt, who was going to be the 4th guy. Now Jackson Moy is hurt. Bryson Eason's going to step in. Tennessee's going to have to go more to going to have to go deeper on the defensive line now because they have so many injuries there up front. Now, Tyree Weathersby, Dominic Bailey, Tyree West all played. Jamal Wallace got some action. Marion Dye, Ethan Utley as a true freshman is going to be the one to step in, it looks like. But Josh Shell didn't step in, and he was a transfer that they got from Grand Valley State that they thought could step in immediately. So there is a lot of lack of depth on this defensive line at tackle that they had last year. Remember, last year they went 6 deep regularly. On the end, there's 2 defensive tackle spots and 1 defensive end spot. The defensive end spot is fine. Dominic Bailey, Tyree Weathersby, Tyree West, totally fine. The issue is in the middle. Last year they went 6 deep with Amari Thomas, Omar Norman Lott, Elijah Simmons, Jackson Moy, Bryson Eason, and David Hobbs. This year, Moy is now hurt. Hobbs is out. Robinson and Hobbs is out. Well, let me start over. They lost Thomas, Simmons, and Omar Norman Lott. Now, Hobbs is out, and now Moy just got hurt, leaving one of the 6 rotational guys from last year still there, Eason. Okay. Nathan Robinson's supposed to be another depth guy, got hurt in the game on Saturday against Syracuse. Should be okay, but that's still a loss. And Moy was the biggest playmaker of that group of the 3 guys returning that were contributors last year. Jamal Wallace, again, could help out, but now you got Jamal Wallace, Bryson Eason, and Ethan Utley, and you're going to have to turn to a freshman or 2. Josh Shell's going to have to get in there. So I think the already existing injuries on the defensive line and the lack of depth there is the biggest reason Jackson Moy's injury is actually more concerning. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up, whose injury is more concerning? Ricky Gibson III leads the way at 67%. Jackson Moy is at 33%. I understand why many of you guys would want to say Ricky Gibson III with this 67% injury. I just can't bring myself to look past the lack of depth on the defensive line. And what was very exciting for Tennessee about Jackson Moy this year, he was supposed to be such a big playmaker. Of course, again, Nathan Robinson made the big play in the Syracuse game where he had the strip sack that Colton Hood recovered and ran into the end zone for the touchdown. But the depth that we're talking about there at the defensive line, it's just not there that it was last year. Although they ran a lot more defensive linemen on Saturday. Again, you can't put too much stock in that. They were playing Syracuse. Syracuse is a bad team up front, guys. They had a bad offensive front last year. They couldn't run the ball. And once again, they had a bad offensive front this year. So when you take that into account, even though the win itself was impressive overall, you can't really take into account the defensive front and what they were doing, or the offensive line for that matter, because Syracuse is very soft in the middle. That's not their style. They don't get the players for that. They are very limited in what they're able to do. And because of that, I think that Tennessee looked a lot better on the defensive line than they're going to look for the rest of the year. So with that, I think Jackson Moy is a bigger concern, his injury, even though Ricky Gibson III is going to be out for a more extended period of time, and Tennessee's best defensive back is already hurt. I think Tennessee is still deeper at cornerback. They will have Jermon McCoy back soon enough, and the other injuries on the defensive line are going to be why Jackson Moy's injury is more concerning overall. Now, to the message board, David Speaks says they have Bailey and West for depth inside, both being 6'3", 295 to 305. You're right, David, and they can mix and match and alternate and rotate for that. But you're still down, which they've done with the interior defensive line. They got a nose tackle, a defensive tackle, and defensive end that are all roughly the same size a lot of times, just put in at different positions. And you're right, West and Bailey are both on the end. But at all three positions, they like to combine the three to go about 10 to 12 deep. When you're without Hobbs, when you're without Moy, when you may be without Robinson, and you lost 3 interior linemen from last year, that becomes harder. So it doesn't matter if you guys move them in. You still need that depth at the defensive end spot too. So that's still a concern overall. And with that in mind, I think that Tennessee is going to have a problem with Jackson Moy being out if he doesn't get healthy quickly. Now, this could be holding him out for precautionary reasons. We don't know, but it's not the best start for the Vols. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. It's time for Bank on It. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC. Life made better. Tennessee's out here flipping recruits left and right. After flipping five-star wide receiver LSU, I can't even talk. Tennessee is out here recruiting. Guys, I'm having a really rough Tuesday. I'm trying to get a nice little start, and I'm just struggling. Just give me a break for a minute. All right. Tennessee is out here flipping recruits left and right. A week after flipping five-star wide receiver Tristan Keys, who flipped to Tennessee from LSU last Thursday, and less than 2 weeks after flipping four-star offensive lineman Kamari Blair from South Carolina, the Vols have now flipped a four-star edge rusher. This time, Hezekiah Harris, they flipped from the Auburn Tigers. Harris is a four-star edge rusher out of Jemison High School in Huntsville, Alabama. Shocking he committed to Auburn when he's a Huntsville kid. That's Northern Alabama. That's usually Alabama Crimson Tide territory. Coach Chop, Lavorne Harbin, and Tim Banks were targeting him non-stop. Harris is not just a fringe four-star, by the way. He is a unanimous four-star across the board, so he is a clear-as-day elite athlete. There is no questions about his potential as an edge rusher. Tennessee has become somewhat of edge rusher U with Byron Young and then James Pierce turning into NFL players. And landing Harris is a huge get for the Vols. Harris is 6'5.5", 235 pounds. This is a big win for them just after they start the season beating Syracuse. I mean, you can't undersell landing this. This was something that was somewhat expected for a while, but it's still a big deal having Harris. He was frequently visiting Tennessee as an unofficial visitor despite the fact that he was from committed to Auburn. Now, Tennessee had trouble landing elite top-notch edge rushers in 2025, so getting Harris for 2026 is a big deal. Most notably, this really spikes Tennessee's recruiting rankings. We don't know how long this is going to last, but as of right now, Tennessee has moved up to number 7 with their recruiting rankings overall. They have 25 commitments, 3 5-stars, 12 4-stars, and then 10 3-stars to go with it. However, at number 7 nationally, that's number 5 in the SEC, as Georgia's number 1, Texas A&M is number 3, Alabama's number 4, and Texas is number 5. In terms of where Harris ranks among the commitments in the class, the most highly touted recruits in this class are Faison Brandon, Tristan Keys, Gabriel Lucinda, Salasimoa, Joel Wyatt, Braden Rouse, and TJ White. 2, 3, 4, 5. That means he's the 8th best player in this class per 247 Sports composite. Actually, when you move it up, that was 247 Sports. When you go 247 Sports composite, he's the 6th best player in the class behind Keys, Brandon, Moa, Wyatt, and Rouse. So again, a big pickup here. I think what really stands out for Tennessee in this is they now have 3 edge rushers committed in this class. CJ Edwards is the more forgettable one. He's a 3-star, but he is out of New Jersey, and those kids can be underrated sometimes. They can be overrated too if you're talking about Jerry Garantano, but they can be underrated too. And so keep an eye on that. But the 2 highly touted ones, Zach Groves, an in-state edge rusher from Tennessee, and now Hezekiah Harris out of Alabama. Alabama is a great place to find edge rushers. I can just tell you guys that right now. Tennessee usually doesn't get these kids, and it's a big deal that they're getting them. And how long will this last? Well, bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Very soon, Tennessee is going to be poaching recruits out of Alabama at a level not seen in 25 years. That is, bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Bank on it. Tennessee is going to be poaching players more and more from Alabama and Auburn very, very, very soon. Look, I'm going to give Auburn a lot of credit for how they started the weekend. That was a great game that they played against Baylor last Friday, and Jackson Arnold was incredible. I will talk about why he's right now looking like one of my Heisman favorites, and I can't take any of that away from him. At the same time, Baylor's a mediocre program. They were 8-5 last year in the very mediocre Big 12. This is no sign of Auburn being successful at all. They will get to 2-0 with Ball State, but they could still lose to South Alabama. Not South Alabama, excuse me. They'll get to 3-0 with South Alabama, and they might even get to 4-0 with Brent Venables and Oklahoma falling apart when they visit Oklahoma on September the 20th. But then they got to visit Texas A&M. They got to host Georgia. They got to host Missouri. Hugh Freeze is not doing what he needs to do on the recruiting trail. This is a big red flag for Hugh Freeze. I mean, the guy goes golfing all the time. As we know, Lane Kiffin is really creating that narrative that's going to turn more people against Hugh Freeze. Lane Kiffin knows what he's doing with that, guys. I'll just tell you that right now. And when you take all that into account, Auburn's not going to be able to recruit the way they need to. Also, Hugh Freeze is just a snake who's been caught lying to recruits before. He has no moral compass whatsoever. It's one of the biggest liars in the history of college football. And so with that, they're in trouble. Meanwhile, Alabama. Now, again, we're going to get to Alabama and their issues and what happened over the weekend. Alabama, though, after that loss on Saturday, even if they do turn things around, and I think they will, I think being compared to the Nick Saban realm of success is going to keep the narrative working against them for a while. Look, they're going to beat Louisiana Monroe. I think they're going to beat Wisconsin. They're going to be okay. But they're going to lose at Georgia. Then they're going to beat Vanderbilt. They're going to win at Missouri. I mean, then they'll play at Missouri and Tennessee. And even if they win at Missouri, Tennessee, and at South Carolina, those 3 games will get them to, at this point, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-2 before their bye, and then they face LSU in what will be another epic game November the 8th. They can't win back the momentum from what they just lost until they face LSU, unless they beat Georgia September the 27th, and they're not beating Georgia. That's a long time on the recruiting trail from August 30th to November the 8th. That's a long time for Tennessee to be able to poach talent out of Alabama consistently and say what they're building in Knoxville. And when you take that into account, I don't see any way Tennessee isn't able to poach guys out of Alabama. The way Tennessee was winning championships during the former years was lock off the talented guys in state, lock off the elite players in state, then go to Georgia, build a semi-pipeline there, particularly helpful if the Bulldogs are terrible, which they did in 97 when they landed Jamal Lewis, Kosi Coleman, and Deion Grant. And then pluck guys from every other bordering state in SEC country or nearby state. Oh, also build a pipeline from South Carolina. So here's how they do it. Lock off the state. Build a pipeline into Georgia and South Carolina. And then poach a couple of guys from Alabama, a couple of guys from Mississippi, a couple of guys from Louisiana, and a couple of guys from North Carolina. And that's how you go win a national title if you're Tennessee. That's how you do it. That's exactly what they did when they won the national title in 1998. All 4 of their starters on the defensive line were from South Carolina. They had key guys in Kosi Coleman, Jamal Lewis, and Deion Grant out of Georgia. And then they were poaching a couple of guys here from Alabama, Mississippi, you name it, while locking off the state with Al Wilson being the leader of the team, and also poaching a couple of guys from Ohio. Alabama has been walled off from them for 20 years because of Nick Saban, and even honestly because of the early success Gus Malzahn and to a certain degree Gene Chizik at one point was having at Auburn, taking that into account. Things are opening up now for Tennessee. They will be able to start poaching players from that state again at a higher rate, and that will allow them to recruit at a level not seen since the Philip Fulmer days. Bank on it. Just saying, this is going to be a huge deal long term when that happens. Okay. And I just think that, look, I still believe in Alabama long term, but Hugh Freeze's laziness and snakishness and lack of credibility with recruits in Alabama, the narrative surrounding them right now is going to be impossible to get back, at least for 2 months. So because of that, I think Tennessee has a 2-month window to really poach some talent out of Alabama. And we're going to see how that goes going forward. It's definitely a rough start for them. Smash that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Portions of the program brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKS for 10% off. When we come back, Nico Iamaleava. All right, we're going to have a little fun with him, guys, because homeboy did not look good in his season opener. And that might be the understatement of the century, and it's going to be what the H. So stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook. Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell, turn on those notifications. It is time for This Day in Tennessee Football History. And on this day, 19 years ago to the day, Tennessee exercised a year of frustration from 2005 to make a huge statement win. The Vols were hosting the Cal Golden Bears. They were coming off their first losing season in 17 years when they went 5-6 in 2005. That was Tennessee. That was. They hosted Cal to start the year in 2006. Cal was a top 10 team, ranked number 9. They had Marshawn Lynch and Deshaun Jackson, just a couple of names you guys might know about. Coming into Knoxville, Tennessee had retooled their offense by bringing back David Cutcliffe to be offensive coordinator. Even though they were 5-6, there was still some hope. So they were number 23, but Cal was number 9. The line moved from 2 points in favor of Tennessee to 2 points in favor of Cal right before kickoff. And all Tennessee managed to do was jump out to a 35-0 lead as Eric Ames threw 4 touchdown passes, 2 easy ones to Robert Meacham, where Robert Meacham just caught a hitch route, broke a tackle, went down the sideline for a touchdown. Tennessee jumped out to a 35-0 lead, absolutely dominated, pulled away 35-18, and one of the most thrilling openers in Tennessee football history. I wrote at the time, though, I was actually a student reporter at Tennessee at the time, and I wrote that don't read too much into that game. Not because I didn't think Cal was overrated or anything like that, but because Cal's starting cornerback was playing with a broken hand in that game. I had intel that Tennessee had gotten a hold of Cal signals, not Connor Stalions' way. They just figured things out. And the combination made them easily throw 4 touchdown passes. And then there was a great Montario Hardesty run, but they weren't actually moving the ball at the line of scrimmage the way they should. And that became a concern as the year went on because they had trouble with the running game that season. But that was a great start to the season for Tennessee. This day in Tennessee sports history brought to you by Joe Newber Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newber Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. JoeNewberCollision.com. JoeNewberCollision.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
All right, let's have a little fun. What do y'all say, huh? Who's ready to have some fun? You know, you shouldn't be, but if you're a Tennessee fan, you're naturally going to be petty. Because Nico Iamaleava went out of his way to humiliate you this offseason. Now, I don't know if it was Nico or his family, but remember everything that happened. Tennessee opened up the checkbook to get Nico Iamaleava, $8 million over 4 years, thumbed its nose at the NCAA, had its state and its neighboring state sue the NCAA on Nico Iamaleava's behalf to throw out restrictions on NIL, and did everything to fight for him, generated all the controversy, took all the heat, only to see Nico Iamaleava's family transfer at the end of spring practice. Story comes out, they were asking for even more money. Tennessee said no, and then that they took less money at UCLA. But the Iamaleava family didn't stop there. They went out and told 3 different reasons for transferring away to UCLA. Actually, 4. We heard 4 different reasons. No, we heard 3. One of the reasons was obviously money that we think it was, but they said it wasn't about money. They first said it was about the offensive system because, Tennessee doesn't develop offense, but we knew that seemed like a lie because they knew that when they committed to Josh Heupel, and you wouldn't commit to a school that runs a pro-style offense if that offensive coordinator running it was a first-year offensive coordinator, which UCLA wasn't Tino Sinceri. That wasn't it. We also heard that they didn't put enough, that the Iamaleava family wasn't happy about how they put enough, about the amount of talent and supporting cast Tennessee was putting around him. So they went to UCLA, a school with less talent and a lower supporting cast, please. And then Nico Iamaleava, after those two things didn't work out, decided to say that the real reason he did it was because he wanted to go home. And that's why he wanted to go. That's why he transferred to UCLA. He said that when he finally spoke about it. Inconsistencies all around. But then we get Joel Klatt coming out saying that Tennessee was controlling the narrative. They were making things up, all that good stuff. And it all came to fruition with UCLA in a late night game against Utah on Saturday, losing 43-10. 43-10. Now, for Nico Iamaleava's part, he did lead the team in rushing and passing. He had 47 rushing yards. But he was sacked 4 times, and he was 11 of 22 for 136 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception in a 43-10 home loss. And immediately, out of the blue, Tennessee, UCLA fans are already turning on Nico Iamaleava. They were frustrated as all get out with Nico Iamaleava and the way he played in that game. Barstool UCLA was trashing him with some of the overthrows. All of a sudden, UCLA Twitter and UCLA fans have turned on Nico Iamaleava, and it only took one game. What the H brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
The poll question up: do you take pleasure in Nico Iamaleava playing so poorly against Utah? Yes, karma's a B word. No, I don't wish ill will on college athletes. I don't wish ill will on players. Okay. So go ahead, you guys vote on that. The poll question up is: do you take pleasure in Nico Iamaleava playing so poorly against Utah? Yes, karma's a B word, or no, I don't wish ill will on players. I think that's kind of either way, you might look bad based on how you say it, because, do you want to be the guy who wishes ill will on players? We don't know, but I'll just show you this, a couple of misses that Nico Iamaleava clearly had. And again, last year, part of the issue was Tennessee's receivers were a big problem. We will say that. But this year, there were just but in this game, there were just some very clear overthrows that he can't make. And I'm just going to show you this one that has stood out to everybody, that everybody's talking about. And even at Tennessee, I don't think I saw one this bad. And that might be shocking to a lot of you. But guys, I don't think, was there an overthrow this bad when Nico was at Tennessee? Look at this one right here. This is when, that's a touchdown if he puts it on the money. Now, the receiver dropped it, but Nico's got to put that a little bit more in. He's got to have a little bit more touch on that ball. That is a clear touchdown if Nico just throws it, just underthrow it a little bit at that point. You can underthrow it if you if you do it right. That's a clear as day touchdown. But I got to say that Nico was doing that all night, and everybody at UCLA was turning against it. Now, we had heard more that Nico Iamaleava wanted to opt out of the playoff game last year, which was causing issues. What we're really seeing here is that Nico Iamaleava has just, I think personally, the pressure and everything got to him playing at UCLA. It was already getting to him at Tennessee. And then I think playing at UCLA, knowing the way he transferred, knowing everything that happened with that, the pressure just hit him so hard and he missed on some easy throws. And that was happening consistently. Of course, Deshaun Foster was saying after the game, "Oh, we're close. We're close." Really? No, you're not. And the funny thing is, like, you transfer to UCLA and Joey Aguilar transfers to Tennessee, and Joey Aguilar has a much better start at Tennessee. That something that Nico Iamaleava could have had, honestly, if he had stayed at Tennessee. I mean, I do believe that. I've said for a while that Tennessee probably could have been better with Nico Iamaleava this year than they would have been than they will be with Joey Aguilar. But I always said they'd be better with Joey Aguilar than they were with Nico Iamaleava last year. And Joey Aguilar at Tennessee will be better than Nico Iamaleava will be at Alabama. I just don't think there's any way around those facts. So when you take all of that into account, when you take all that into consideration, I kind of look at this and I say, honestly, Nico Iamaleava brought this on himself. At the same time, I never like to wish ill will on anybody. I never like to wish ill will on athletes, but he's looking, at least after the opener, at least after the start, he's looking really, really bad right now. The whole question up, did you take pleasure in Nico Iamaleava playing so poorly against Utah? Yes, karma's a B word, 85%. No, I don't wish ill will on players is 15%. I'm going to stay fair. I've tried to stay measured on Nico the whole time. Okay. Nico also, that is a great point. Adam overthrew a running back from 5 yards away for a pick. Yes, I'm going to be fair to Nico. The receiving core was an issue for Nico last year. Brew McCoy, all the respect in the world for him, great leader, great player, was coming off a broken leg, and I clearly lost a step, hence the reason he had to medically retire from football. That was a big issue for Tennessee last year. Nico could never get his timing right with Brew McCoy. Dante Thornton was also coming off a season-ending injury, which slowed him up. And Squirrel White was playing with a separated shoulder half the year. So the receiving core was causing an issue for Nico overall. I also do think that Nico was slow to process things and slow to pick up things, but I think you can develop in that. I do. I think you can develop. Now, again, Nico is not what I thought he was, which I told you guys I was talking about like nobody a couple of years ago, saying he was created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's offense. That was based on me watching the Polynesian Bowl in high school and then watching some clips and hearing about things he had been doing in practice when he arrived for bowl practice at Tennessee in 2022. Turns out you still got to process and make quick decisions. He wasn't doing that. You can develop that, though, over time. He just wasn't early. At the same time, that's why Joey Aguilar is such an advantage over Nico. You wonder if Nico had stayed at Tennessee, if he would have processed a lot better this year. At the end of the day, though, he brought this on himself, or at least his family brought this on him. And at some point, he's got to make his own decisions, because that was an awful, awful performance by him on Saturday. And he deserves a lot of the blame for what happened. He was missing on a lot of throws. The pressure was getting to him, I do believe. But pressure getting to you is a really bad sign going forward for playing quarterback. Maybe he'll settle into the role. I'm sure Tennessee fans hope he doesn't. But that was just a really bad situation. I think who I root against more than Nico Iamaleava, guys, and I'll just be honest with you. I root against Deshaun Foster more than I root against Nico Iamaleava. For him to sabotage Joey Aguilar like that reminded me of Brent Schaefer and Ed Orgeron, where, for those who don't remember, Ed Orgeron, entering his second year at Ole Miss in 2006, landed Brent Schaefer out of the transfer portal. And before Schaefer was even academically eligible to arrive on campus, Orgeron told the whole team Brent Schaefer was going to be the starting quarterback. No competition. It was totally unfair. Josh Heupel almost lost the team doing that with Joe Milton a few years ago when, from sources I had heard, the team wanted Hendon Hooker. And now I got to say that I think Deshaun Foster lost his team when Joey Aguilar was winning everybody over working with them in spring practice. And then Deshaun Foster goes and says, I'm going to take Nico Iamaleava, and kind of makes it very clear that he's going to start Iamaleava over Aguilar in the fall. Aguilar transfers, ends up at Tennessee. And then the coaching staff at UCLA starts to leak stories questioning Aguilar's work ethic. One of the most Bush League things ever. So I'm actually more rooting against Deshaun Foster than I am Nico Iamaleava. I think Nico Iamaleava is, the problem with him is he already was surrounded by bad people. His family, who don't know what they're doing. Now he's surrounded by a head coach who doesn't know what he's doing, and an offensive coordinator who's the son of Sal Sinceri. So just by being in the family of Sal Sinceri, I assume he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's going to lead Nico Iamaleava to make a lot of bad decisions. He's not got the right environment around him. Again, homeboy can throw. We know homeboy can throw the ball, but he's not in the right environment, and that's a big issue for him going forward. And we'll see what happens. But look, he brought the hate on himself for what he's doing on this. So it's kind of interesting how that all played out. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. When we come back, we're going to discuss SEC Power Rankings. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell, turn on your notifications, because we now go to our SEC Power Rankings. The SEC Power Rankings, after a pretty decent weekend in which they played 6 Power 5 schools, won 4 of them, all away from home. How are we going to do our power rankings this year? We're going to do them the same we do them every year. And I need to stress this because a lot of people get confused on how we do this. Our power rankings are not based on exactly... Our power rankings are not based on projections. They're not our actual rankings, which is based on solely your body of work. They are based on how you are playing right now and how I would favor you on who I would favor on a neutral field if you played a certain team right now. Now, the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people would say, well, you have to base on who won or lost. Well, no, if you lose a game, I still might favor you over a team who won a game and who I might have ahead of you in rankings. Okay. I'm saying who I would bet on a neutral field money line right now if these two played. That's my power rankings. It's who I would bet on a neutral field money line right now. That's the way I do my power rankings, okay? So we're going to set these power rankings up into tiers. And the tiers are going to be this. Tier 4 is the bottom of the SEC right now. That is based on what you did in your opener. Based on what you did in your opener, Tier 4 are teams that won but looked ugly and have a lot of concerns going forward. There's a few of those that we're going to name. Tier 3 are teams that could be among the bottom of the SEC teams this year, but they all looked pretty good in their opener and they have no reason to be upset. Tier 2 are teams that looked good in their opener, but and are expected to be good, but their opener was against questionable teams. It's also teams that suffered good losses. And it's teams that suffered not bad losses, and it's teams that looked good in their opener. And could be good in the SEC, but haven't proven it yet. We can't believe it for sure just yet because they didn't have enough of a body of work. And then Tier 1 are the top tier teams in the SEC as of right now, who I think should be the 3 best teams in the SEC. And that's how we're going to get rolling. All right, so SEC power rankings up. Let's get rolling. And we start at Tier 4. And this is going to be, by the way, 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. That's 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Let's get rolling. And we start with number 16 in Tier 4. And I think number 16 is pretty obvious, which is Kentucky. They played Toledo. They won 24-16 all time. 24-16. That's pretty ugly. I don't think I can sit there and say that Kentucky is anything beyond Tier 4 because of that. So winning 24-16 there's just no way around that. Hideous. Kentucky looks like they're a bad team once again. Toledo's not a bad start. I'll give them that. But at the same time, 24-16 is pretty darn awful. All right. Still in Tier 4. And by the way, I forgot to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and start it out. With Dave Hooker out, everybody hashtag Dave Hooker, still dealing with personal matter. His soundboard usually has Cooper Mace at TSL for the 4 Downs. And we don't have the soundboard today, and we won't until he's back. And so I am imitating Cooper Mace at TL 4 Downs. So Cooper Mace here. Hit like and subscribe. Thanks, Coop. Now again, Coop here. First down. All right, Coop is asking for first. All right, so first down with Coop. Okay. Again, Kentucky number 16, looking horrible against Toledo. Mississippi State number 15. I still believe in Mississippi State long-term. Jeff Lebby is going to be a very good coach. I do think they're turning a corner, but they only beat Southern Miss 34-17, and they struggled to really pull away in the first half. And that's a very bad Southern Miss football team. So with that in mind, I got to have Mississippi State at number 15. All right. Cooper Mays here. Second down. Thank you, Coop. Tier 3. Again, teams that had blowout wins over the weekend, but have to do more to prove that they belong out of the bottom of the SEC and aren't competing for the worst spot. Number 14, Arkansas. Kudos to Arkansas. They did look good over the weekend. They blew out Alabama A&M 52-7. Taylor Green had 6 touchdown passes, but it was Alabama A&M. I need to see more. I'm not going to take anything into account with that. Number 13, Vanderbilt beat Charleston Southern 45-3. Diego Pavia, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 20-25 again. Elite quarterback play from Arkansas and Vanderbilt against lesser teams, but they still have more to prove. 12. Number 12. Oklahoma. Oklahoma did have a good start with their new quarterback. John Mateer was 30 of 37, 392 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was Illinois State, and they won 35-3. Not doing anything for Oklahoma on that. Number 11, Mizzou, Missouri. That's right, Missouri. Missouri won their opener 61-6 with the new starting quarterback. That starting quarterback was Bo Prabula, who threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns while rushing for another 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, it was Central Arkansas. And I know Missouri was ranked last year, so they maybe shouldn't be in Tier 3. I still think they could compete with the bottom of the SEC this year. So we're going to have to see how that all plays out. But major props to Missouri for how they played in that game. All right, Tier 2. I'm sorry, I forgot to do it. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down. Thank you, Coop. Tier 2. Number 10, Florida. Now, Florida should have to do more to prove they belong out of the bottom of the SEC, but they don't right now. They blew out Long Island University 55-0, and they did that with DJ Lagway and Trammell Jones both playing, combining for 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. So Florida looked really good, but again, it was Long Island University, so they still have to prove more. All right, number 9. And everybody's going to love this one. Alabama. It's not that they lost at Florida State. It's that they lost by 2 touchdowns. And honestly, they weren't really in the game by the 3rd quarter, which was a big issue. So with that in mind, yeah, Alabama is number 9 right now. And there were major questions about Kalen DeBoer and what he can do. I still project them to be good long-term. But if I were setting lines on the open market on money lines, I would have them underdogs against the rest of the teams I'm going to name on a neutral field. Because number 8 and ahead of Alabama right now is Auburn. And I could put Auburn higher. Auburn has a case to be Tier 1. They beat pretty comfortably a Power 4 school on the road when they beat Baylor 38-24. I couldn't jump Hugh Freeze's team that much because there's too many teams they would play that I just wouldn't favor them over. But that was a very good win for them. They looked very good. They won 38-24, and that's enough for me to have Auburn at number 8 on this list. Number 7, Tennessee. Blowing out Syracuse 45-26. I could have Tennessee higher, but I did think they would blow out Syracuse, so they didn't show me anything I didn't expect to see, and that's enough for me to have Tennessee at number 7. That doesn't mean they won't get better in the future, but as of right now, they're number 7 because number 6, Texas A&M. Texas A&M did beat Texas San Antonio. It was 42-24. That may not seem like much, but they did cover. Texas San Antonio is a good program, so to win that game is – and the way they won it is totally fine for them. And as of right now, I had Texas A&M better than Tennessee to start the season. I still have them better than Tennessee to start the season. That's why I have Texas A&M at number 6. Number 5, and this is my big risk one, and it's Ole Miss. I get they only played Georgia State, but good Lord, they dominated Georgia State, and they looked incredible with Austin Simmons at quarterback, and they beat them 63-7. So number 5 is Ole Miss. And number 4, the other team to lose over the weekend is Texas. I get they lost. I get Arch Manning looked horrible. We're going to talk about that. But they lost to the defending national champions on the road by a touchdown. We're really, really, really overrating this loss. This is not a bad loss. They still have a case to be Tier 1, honestly. So Texas, I think, is number 4 in my SEC power rankings to this point. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford Lincoln volume dealer. When we come back, 4th down. First, a quick message from Ted Russell Ford.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down. Well, thank you, Coop. That was very good to hear from you. All right. Fourth down from all SEC center Cooper Mays is this. Our tier ones. And I think our tier one's going to shock you guys. The other two are probably pretty obvious. But our tier ones are this. I've got to put South Carolina tier one. I had them number 2 in my SEC Power Rankings to start the year, and then they went and beat Virginia Tech. It wasn't the prettiest win, but it was a Power 5 school at a neutral site, and they won pretty comfortably, 24-11. I think South Carolina still has the best player in the SEC, and Lenora Sellers. And when you take that into account, there's no way that South Carolina doesn't deserve to be tier one. They are number 3 in our SEC Power Rankings right now. And so I'm sorry, I got to put them at number 1. And maybe that'll change going forward, but not number 1, tier 1, but beating Virginia Tech has to count for something. So South Carolina is number 3. Number 2, Georgia. I know they only beat Marshall, but this is just based on reputation. I mean, come on, who's going to favor any of the other schools over Georgia on a neutral site right now? They beat Marshall 45-7. I'm mad at them for not covering. They allowed a meaningless touchdown at the end of the game, and I hate Kirby Smart for that. I thought they would embarrass Marshall for talking all that trash at the beginning of the game. But either way, Georgia is number 2 in my SEC Power Rankings, and number 1, the number 1 team in my SEC Power Rankings as of right now. And again, guys, Power Rankings are how you're playing right now and who you'd be favored on a neutral field right now. It's not a projection. Is obviously LSU. Beating Clemson on the road counts for something. Huge deal. LSU is number 1 in our SEC Power Rankings. That is our SEC Power Rankings to start the year. Things will get a lot easier as time goes on. It's always tough at the beginning because you just don't know where things are going to land. But that is our SEC Power Rankings for now. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pros. That's right, Quality Tire Pros. They are serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, "Hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you." QualityTirePros.com. It is time for the stat of the day. And the stat of the day is this. With Tennessee beating Syracuse on Saturday, Tennessee is now officially 3-1-1 and it's when a new play-by-play broadcaster is making a debut on the Vol Network. The first debut game for a broadcaster Tennessee ever played, 1948 Mississippi State, where under Lindsey Nelson, Tennessee lost. They lost, shockingly, to, I believe it was Mississippi State. Yes, that's right. They lost to Mississippi State in 1948 in Lindsey Nelson's debut as a broadcaster. Of course, 1952, George Moody comes in. They rectify that problem, and they beat Mississippi State. But then 1968 comes around, and John Ward takes over. They tie Georgia. 1999, Bob Kessling takes over. They beat Wyoming. And 2025, they beat Syracuse. So they are 3-1-1 all time on the Vol Network. And that, when they are debuting a new play-by-play commentator. And that stat of the day is brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest, hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. All righty. When we come back, we're going to recap the first week of the 2025 season and talk about the big things that happened. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still trying to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. Portions of the program brought to you by the UPS Store, Haun Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Haun Valley Road. It is time to play a little hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow more on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TN. And hot or cold is going to be all about our takeaways from week 1 of the 2025 college football season. Let's get rolling. College football is back. Week 1 started with the bang with 3 top 10 matchups. We're going to recap week 0 and week 1 together for this because we didn't do a full recap of week 0 and there were some games that we want to talk about there. So with college football back, a lot of excitement to get to. Let's go ahead and roll with the biggest takeaways from the first week and some change of the college football season if you count week 0, because a lot of things were going on. And again, once again, that's hot or cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. We start with Ohio State's defense looks elite, and Arch Manning and Texas Arch Manning looks underwhelming in his debut at Texas. That was the storyline of the weekend. Arch Manning and Texas scored 1 touchdown, lose to Ohio State on the road 14-7. Am I hot or cold on these things sticking? Well, I'm hot on Ohio State's defense staying elite. They had a lot of talent back. They are loaded everywhere on that side of the ball. So I think that was legit. I'm cold on Arch Manning, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, am I hot or cold on what happened over the weekend staying in narrative? I'm cold on Arch Manning and Texas struggling staying in narrative. I think that's a very tough first start for a quarterback. Arch Manning went to a brutal environment, and when you take that into account, I think he will be fine. He did miss some throws that he should not have missed. I do agree there. But I also think that Texas will be fine long-term. That was just a tough first game to have. Okay, what about Alabama? They're in trouble. And Florida State looks back as the Seminoles beat Alabama in a shocker 31-17 at home over the weekend when Alabama was favored by 13.5. After going 9-4 last year, Kalen DeBoer, the selling point was he just needs his offense. He just needs his quarterback to run the system because Jalen Milroe wasn't a fit. I made that claim, and he's going to get it with Ty Simpson. And now that Ryan Grubb is back, the guy who had him have success at Washington, he's going to take it to another level. And so I had Alabama covering on Saturday. I thought they were going to win and running away, and that just didn't happen. Alabama ended up struggling severely, by the way, and lost to Florida State 31-17. to 17. The offense wasn't what I thought it'd be. They only had 341 yards of total offense to Florida State's 382. Okay, Alabama in trouble. Believe it or not, I'm cold on that. I think Alabama actually will be good long term. I think this was a first game jitters thing for Ty Simpson. We'll see how it works out. But I just can't bring myself to believe that Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to falter in the SEC. I saw it succeed at too many other places, and he's got the talent now. So I'm having, I just think this was a fluke game, and I actually think Alabama's going to be fine. I was big on them at the beginning of the year, but I can't just leave after one game, even though that was shocking. As far as Florida State being back, yeah, I think they might be back. They certainly looked the part. That was a great job by Florida State. Remember, Mike Norvell's team just quit through half the year last year after everything that happened. They were so angry about being undefeated and not going anywhere the year before. I think now they are. I think with Tommy Castellanos, look, that was a heck of a game by him. And I think overall, Florida State's defense was solid. I think Florida State is back and playing in the ACC. You're going to have to contend with them in the college football playoff this year. So yeah, no, I think Florida State's absolutely back. Speaking of other ACC teams, though, not all of them were as lucky. LSU finally gets a big win under Brian Kelly, and Cade Klubnik still looks overrated. I'm hot on both of these narratives. I told you guys before the season started, Cade Klubnik was being massively overrated for how he finished the season at Clemson last year. But when he actually played SEC teams, South Carolina at home, he scored 14 points, and then Texas in the college football playoff game, he scored 10 points midway through the third quarter, and then Texas allowed 2 garbage touchdowns. Oh, and he had 3 when he faced Georgia at the beginning of the last year. Yeah, all of that is important because I had said from the start he's massively overrated, and I felt that my best underpick of last weekend was Clemson and LSU. I said take the under no matter what, and boy was I right on that, because LSU's offense you would think would sputter because it's a first game jitters for LSU, and the offense always sputters in Brian Kelly's first game, but I thought their defense would win it because of how bad Cade Klubnik or how overrated he was, and boy, was I right on that. So I think absolutely Cade Klubnik, overrated. That is my takeaway from LSU, from Clemson for that, and I was right. And LSU finally getting a big win, turning a corner in Brian Kelly's in Brian Kelly's 4th year on the job. I'm hot on that. This is a big corner turning win for LSU. It shows them they can win close games. It gives them the confidence they need. They've been in these moments. They've been in these situations. They've had the opportunities every year. Brian Kelly's been there. To finally get one will help them turn a corner. I am huge on LSU. That's a big one. All right. Miami looking elite with Carson Beck. The Hurricanes beat Notre Dame 27-24 in a game that wasn't even that close last weekend. Okay, I'm cold on this narrative staying. I think Notre Dame had a lot of youth, had a lot of things going against them in this one. They were on the road. And the biggest reason I'm cold on this is I think Mario Cristobal is going to find a way to screw this up. Okay, you had it in this one. Miami was playing very conservative late and sitting on a lead, and they let Notre Dame get back in this game. They just straight up let Notre Dame get back in this game. And I think Mario Cristobal is going to screw this up somehow. And because of that, I'm cold on this Miami narrative staying the same thing. But I'm hot on Notre Dame being in trouble now. This is not a loss you want to start the season. They now have to face Texas A&M, and they still have to face and they still have some good ACC teams they're going to have to play. But Miami, the problem with Notre Dame now, Texas A&M's their last chance at a quality win down the road. They don't really have a chance at another quality win unless you think USC is going to turn things around this year. So with this loss, they could have been eliminated from college football playoff contention. Notre Dame might be done they might already be eliminated from college football playoff contention, because I don't see a quality win the rest of the way unless they beat Texas A&M and then Texas A&M goes on a roll. But if they lose this Saturday, it's over. There's no coming back from Marcus Freeman's team. There's nobody else they play on the schedule to earn a college football playoff berth, and that's a big issue. Staying in the ACC, which, by the way, the ACC was the story of the weekend because they actually were playing a lot of big games to their credit. But Bill Belichick humiliated on Monday night. Humiliated. It is Auburn 48-14 in a loss to TCU. The defense was horrible. Defense is supposed to be Bill Belichick's calling card. It was not in this game. They made Josh Hoover, TCU quarterback, look like a Heisman candidate. I will get to that in a second, by the way. But Bill Belichick was horrible. It was terrible. Freddie Kitchens as the offensive coordinator did not look ready to go. And Steven Belichick, his son, being the defensive coordinator, that looked like an issue. Now, UNC, I didn't think would be elite off the start because they're running a standard pro-style offense and they're facing and that they just don't have the talent to win with pro-style offense because you gotta have the talent when you're running that offense. At the same time, TCU, though, Sonny Dykes has not had the same level of magic that he's had since his first year at SMU. It's been very similar to what he did at Cal back in the day, but he did go 9-4 last year. They were a top 25 fringe team this year. So with that in mind, you could see how that would happen. But losing like that, that's a big concern for North Carolina long term. You can't lose like that. Losing to TCU is one thing. Losing like that is very embarrassing. So I'm hot on this narrative of Bill Belichick having trouble throughout his first year, because if they had just lost, it'd be one thing. But losing like that, I think there's some big issues at North Carolina. And the more he loses, the more things will spiral for him specifically, because a lot of people think this experiment won't work out. The SEC 4-2 in non-conference games against Power 4 schools. Nobody else had more than 3 wins. More importantly, the SEC played all of their games against Power 4 non-conference schools away from home. Texas, LSU, and Auburn played on the road, for what it's worth. Tennessee, South Carolina, and Alabama, by the way, and Alabama. 4 of these games are on the road. Tennessee and South Carolina played at neutral sites. This is all relevant because you saw after Texas lost and after Alabama lost, a lot of people saying the SEC was choking, ignoring the fact that the SEC was playing more Power 4 schools than any other conference during the weekend, and none of them were at home. And Auburn winning, Tennessee winning, South Carolina winning, and LSU getting the big one Saturday night against Clemson. Very clear that they were dominating. Very clear that the SEC is still a lead. The narrative that they choked doesn't exist. I'm cold on that narrative staying because that narrative shouldn't be out there from Saturday. People are underrating how good the SEC was, but that just shows how they reset the standard so much. So I'm cold on that. The SEC was 4-2. Big 12. Impossible to figure out as it stands right now. Just like last year, as Josh Pate calls it, America's Conference, Big 12 is wide open. Iowa State beat Kansas State in a top 25 matchup to start the season, which was a big deal when they did that. All Kansas State did after that was not look like a quality team because they barely beat North Dakota. Meanwhile, in terms of Power 5 matchups, Cincinnati lost at home to Nebraska on Thursday. On Friday, Baylor lost at home to Auburn. And Colorado, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, thanks to some of his poor coaching in his first game with Kaden Salter, lost at home to Georgia Tech. However, they closed strong. We just talked about the TCU game at UNC. On Saturday night, Utah blew out UCLA. So it looks like Utah and TCU are the best teams in the Big 12 right now, with some of the teams that had higher, and Iowa State too. Iowa State's still good. They held off South Dakota, or destroyed South Dakota 55-7. Right now, it looks like an Iowa State, Texas Tech, Utah, and TCU race. Kansas State looks like they could really be faltering. Colorado, if they lose another one, they'll be out of it before they even fix things, if you think they're going to fix things. So they could be in really big trouble going forward. But the Big 12 looks wide open once again. We don't know how that's going to play out. And I'm hot on that staying a wide open, hard to figure out conference. Speaking of things hard to figure out, the Group of 5 race for the playoff, the Group of 5 team to get in, thrown for a complete loop and busted wide open. Why? Boise State, the one top 25 Group of 5 team to open the year, went and got draxed by former Tennessee offensive coordinator Alex Golis, who's the head coach of South Florida in Tampa. South Florida won 34-7. I'm mad at myself because I picked South Florida plus 5.5 in that game, and I wish I took the money line because they absolutely dominated, and that has totally burst the Group of 5 race for the playoff wide open. And I'm hot on it staying that way the rest of the year because the Group of 5 race for the playoff is always going to be wide open. That's just how things go. Hot or Cold brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, my Heisman race right now, and this is solely based on what you did over the weekend and who you did it against. And I don't care if you're racked up stats against FCS schools, I'm not putting you in there. So my Heisman race is based on people who played well in games against top-level competition, or at least Power 5 competition. And so with that in mind, my leading Heisman contender right now, and this may upset some of you guys, but my leading Heisman contender right now, as of today, based on what was produced, and again, this is not like power rankings, and neither will my top 10 be, because this is based on what you've done to this point, and I separate by tiers based on, did you do it against a playoff team, a Power 4 school, or a Group of 5 school? And leading the way is Devon Dampier at Utah, who was 21 of 25 for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns, and ran for another 87 yards and 1 touchdown on the road, and Utah's 43-10 win over UCLA. He's leading the Heisman race. That was indisputably the best performance by a quarterback over the weekend. However, the second best performance by a quarterback over the weekend. And remember when I told you guys that I thought the Jackson Arnold issues were not about Jackson Arnold, but were about Brent Venables? Well, he made it look like that on Friday when Auburn beat Baylor. Jackson Arnold was only 11 of 17 for 108 yards, but then he had 16 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, being that elite running and throwing the ball against a Power 5 school on the road in a convincing win. Jackson Arnold is now in my Heisman race. That's right, Jackson Arnold. Moving on, speaking of epic road performances, Josh Hoover at TCU. Josh Hoover at TCU, easily third in my Heisman race. 27 of 36 for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns against North Carolina the other night. Josh Hoover had an incredible performance. Josh Hoover is in my Heisman race as of right now. Speaking of some ACC guys, we got a couple other SEC guys that are in this race because of what they did to ACC schools. Lenora Sellers, as of right now, is 4th on my Heisman list. 12 of 19 for 209 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Also ran for 25 yards as of right now. And then finally, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, with what he did to lead them to a win over Clemson. Even though it was a defensive win, Nussmeier was highly efficient, 28 of 38, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, had an 82.7 total QBR. Am I hot or cold on this race relatively staying the same as the year goes on? I'm very cold on it. This is based on what you did this year. I think the majority of people will not be in New York that I just named in my Heisman race going forward. But again, it has to be based on what you did. And speaking of based on what you did, that's how my top 10 is going to work. Who did you beat? Did you beat where did you beat him? How much did you beat him by? And were they a playoff team last year? Taking all that into account, for my top 10, my number 1 is clear as day, easy as heck to rank. That would be LSU. Who is number 1? They deserve to be number 1. They have proven themselves at number 1. They beat a playoff team from last year on the road, 17-10. There's no debate that LSU should be number 1. Number 2 for me, Ohio State. Ohio State beat Texas at home. Texas, again, another playoff team last year. Ohio State getting that win. They should be number 2. Number 3, Miami. Again, I don't think that'll last, but beating Notre Dame, another playoff team, Miami deserves to be number 3. Number 4, and I keep telling you guys this, it's about who you played. South Florida is number 4. Not going to last, I get it, but they blew out a playoff team from last year. So for right now, when you go by resume and body of work, South Florida's number 4. Number 5, Iowa State. Got a Power 5 win in Kansas over Kansas State, and they are 2-0 right now. Number 6, Georgia Tech. Got a Power 5 win against Colorado. So Georgia Tech for me is number 6. Number 7, Florida State. Convincing Power 5 win. Florida State's number 7. Number 8, TCU. Blew out North Carolina on the road. They have to be number 8. Number 9, Utah. Blew out UCLA on the road. Number 10, Auburn. The only other schools that can compete right now for a case to be in the top 25 or top 10 are Tennessee, Nebraska, South Carolina, and Cal. That's it. But again, we're just kind of very much parsing here. This is Am I hot or cold on this saying the same? I'm very cold on this. This is not going to be what the top 10 is down the road. This is based on what you've done to this point. I can't have Georgia in the top 10. They beat Marshall. Okay. Sorry. I just can't. You got to do more. Things will figure. Don't freak out. It's week 1. Things will filter themselves out. I just had to do it based on what was done based on week 1. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. Building something great here at All Dog Sports. Want you to be a part of it. And college football is in full swing now, baby. We are past Labor Day. NFL starts Thursday. Football season is back. It is full go, baby, and we all love it. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook.